Okay, so that transition to entrepreneurship was easy for you because you had that background from your family. Now, diving into taking the leap in faith into, I want something of my own. And I'm sure that's where the Brownstone was born and birthed. And then you had Milestone Market. Kind of take me through that journey of, what led you to say, you know what, I want my own thing and I want it to make an impact. Did you even know it was going to make this huge impact?
We did not. We did not. If you could see this barn 8 years ago. So the barn that we purchased is 5 miles down the road from my family home where I grew up. And so I drove by it every single day. And it was about that 5 or 6 years at my corporate America job that I was talking to my then husband. And we had just gotten married. We had looked at a lot of spaces in Topeka, and the event space now is fabulous in Topeka. But going back 8-10 years ago, it looked a lot different. There wasn't a lot of really upscale spaces. There wasn't indoor-outdoor space in venues. And so we really were like, okay, I wonder if this could be a viable business. And just so happened as those conversations were happening, this barn went up for sale. And we took the leap and decided we're either going to live in a barn or have an event space. Either way, it would be fine.
And now you're up to about 30 employees.
Yes. Yep. Wow. We have about 30 people on staff.
And you've been in this business since 2016.
Yes. So we bought the building in 2016. Our first wedding was in 2017.
Wow. So what, 4 or 5?
So it's right around, we're going on 6 years. Yeah, 7 years.
Up to 30 employees. That is a huge accomplishment. Milestone right there in the books. And I hope you feel really good about that.
Yeah, it has been definitely a learning curve and but so much fun. I think the reason why we have so many, we have 4 full-time employees and the rest are part-time. But the reason why I really dove in that way and why we have such a big team is because the industry standard for weddings and events is a 75% turnover.
Yeah.
So 3 out of the 4 people you see working a wedding day won't be there the next year. And that just, to be real honest, made me mad. I was like, this is such a fun industry. Everyone tells you how much fun it is. You love it. Even in corporate events, like it is such a high turnover. And I was like, we have to figure something out that people want to stay for a long time. I have one of my employees who's been with me. She was my first hire. So it's been here 7 years. So we created a great culture. And we find that harmony with working hard, working events, serving people, but also getting the break and the downtime to recharge.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, so you 6-7 years in the business, right? And you're up to 30 employees.
Yep.
I'm sure you've learned a lot within that space. And so what I want to always remind our listeners is on this podcast, I would love to not only empower them, but educate them on the experiences and, where you've gone and how the education that you've learned has gotten you to this space. So kind of take me back to if you were talking to your old self, right, in entrepreneurship, like, hey, girl, you're about to go in this business. You need to know X, Y, and Z. What would that be?
Absolutely. One is never stop learning. I mean, I listen to hours of podcasts daily. I'm not even kidding. I listen to books. I listen to podcasts. I'm always learning the newest business trends, marketing trends. And I like to learn from people that aren't in my industry also, but really outside my industry. What are outside marketers doing? What's the online space doing? Because I think the wedding and event venue has not the wedding space, the wedding industry is a little archaic in the processes and the way we do things. Right? People have gotten married forever. And so people just kind of stick to their ways. And so I feel like there's so much in the technology space in this world that our industry has not taken a hold of yet. And so I love coming at it from that angle. So one of the things is just to keep learning, never stop learning, and to fail quickly. That's my thing is I'm like, let's just throw it out there. The worst thing that could happen is it doesn't work and it's okay. It just keep on going and just try as many things as possible. And so I fail all the time. I don't want, this has not been an easy journey. I fail all the time. I tell my kids on the way to school, try something new today and tell me about it. Mommy failed yesterday and here's what I did. And it's okay. It is totally fine to try things.
I just love how positive you are about it. I will say this, Abby. Every time I see you, you're smiling all the time. And I'm like, this girl just never goes through it. Are you okay? Typically, business owners, right? They're stressed. They're just moving around. They feel stressed out. But, you always have this, calm spirit over you. And I love it. And it's so contagious. And I'm like, contagious. And I'm just like, okay, where does that come from?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think I have the quote I live my life by is, if serving is beneath you, then leadership is beyond you. And so it is like my whole job is to serve all the people around me, whether it's my team, whether it's my family. And so it brings me joy to do those things. And are there bad days? Yes. Like life is 50-50, 50% awesome, 50% real bummer. Right. But I grew up in a family that it was okay to fail. It's okay to try things and you'll be supported if it works or doesn't work. And so that's where I feel like my job as a leader now. I really took myself from, I don't run physically a lot of the weddings. Now I'm doing a lot of balloons, but I don't do a lot of the weddings. So now my job is really to support my team and what do they need? How can I support them? How can I make their lives easier? How can we make the client's experience the best? So it's not always butterflies and rainbows for sure, but life is a lot more of a bummer if you don't have a good attitude about it.
Yeah. Okay. I love that you are one of the people that can talk to us about this building a team, right? So you've went from 1 to 30, right? Within 6-7 years. So kind of take me down that path of what did you learn during that experience? What advice can you give to any other business owner that is working on building a team? I know some of my friends, they don't know where to start.
Yes.
They're trying to look for people that look like them. But I know I've heard like, hire people that can strengthen your weaknesses.
Absolutely.
And so like for you, what did you learn when it came to hiring the right people? Because I'm sure you had to let some people go.
Yep.
What was that process like for you?
Yeah, absolutely. It was also, I think I had a little bit of an advantage in the fact that my mom was an HR director. So like in her, she's like, you hire people. Like that is like, she came from corporate America, but she was like, that's just what you do.
So you were like picking her brain.
Yeah. So I was like, how does this even work? And I will tell you the first 6-8 months, like we did every single wedding. So my husband would get off work. He'd come be the bartender. I scrubbed the toilets and then did the and then like ran the wedding. And
season.
so like, so like it is there. But I'll tell you, it's like my favorite part, right? Like we talk about those seasons of like Andrew serving too many drinks to somebody, right? Like we have those conversations, and that was like one of my favorites. But then you get tired, and it's time for you to be able to offload some of that work and also just support, like just to have some support. And so we did some of our first hires about 6 months in, and there are ways to do tasks that aren't everything. So like we started out with hiring assistants. Then we hired some cleaning assistants. But all of that were things that would allow me to go in and make more money, if we're just talking entrepreneurship, right? Like they can't just be they can't be just another expense. If they take off tasks for me, that means I need to be going and booking another wedding, or I need to be going and doing balloons now to be able to continue to get that revenue stream. And so like really when I write down my goals for it is really like, I want to increase the salary of this person, or I want to be able to bring on another team member. And when we're hiring someone, really look at their task as not an expense, but how can they be adding value? So how could they be making the sales calls? How can they be adding 3 or 4 weddings? How can they give you time so you can add it on? So it's really it should never be a true expense. It really should be just a revenue generating action that also builds a culture.
I love that. Talk to me about the qualities you look for in a person too when it comes to hiring, because I'm sure the qualities of a person and a character is so important, right? Because like nowadays, like not to like go on a tangent, but it's just so interesting. Like that you see the customer service nowadays, it's like nobody wants to work. Nobody is like happy to be there. And it's like, it's so interesting because even, and I don't know if you did this, but sometimes as business owners, when you're first stepping into entrepreneurship, it's so easy to like lean on your friends. Like, hey girl, like, come on, let's do this business with you. But over time you realize, okay, you know what? It's not the best to work with your friends.
Absolutely.
You got to kind of like, look outside your comfort zone and start really just diving deep. So kind of tell me about your qualities in people when it came to hiring.
Absolutely. So we have some very strong core values. So those are one of the things that we really looked at, where do they fit our core values? But I'll tell you, my assistant manager and I were just talking about like, we want to hire smiley people. Like, who do you want to hang out with? Like, we want to hire smiley people who we're smiling together, and then we'll go out and be smiley to the client. Like, we want somebody who just exudes that kind of energy. And then I also, when you're hiring, people sometimes think that it has to be a friend, or it has to be a big corporate name, or, like they have these things. But I'm like, there's so much to testing. I love testing. I love going and grabbing. I have 2 K-State interns on my team right now. I love trying things because then they'll grow with you. Like, because the job description you have is like, on day one is definitely not what it is a month from then or 6 months from then, right? Like you're going to figure out what are their skills, where can they help you? So I will tell you, I have a list of all my tasks I do in a day. And then I figure out where can I offload? Like every single Monday on my team meetings, I'm like, all right, who's ready to delegate? Like who's taking this task? Who's taking this task? And each week, each month, you're going to learn what their strengths are. If they're in technology, if they're in communication, if they're in sales, or if they're in support. And so you can just kind of get your list of tasks and figure out who you're delegating to and what. And so it's small, but they can get more and more responsibility that way.
That's good. Yeah. Okay, we talked about business, and that's really exciting. And I hope that people can take some tidbits there. Let's dive into who Abbey is. This is like my favorite part. Okay, because it's interesting when people say like, okay, I'm like, who are you? Right? It's so interesting. Every single person that filled out the form, they told me everything that they did.
Absolutely.
Like, it's just normal. It's human. You're like, okay, who are you? I'm a TV host, producer. I've been doing this for X amount of years. Like, it's just so easy, right? But if you were to define who Abbey Brown is, what is that?
Yeah, that's such a good one. And I also, like, it's hard for me to not put those labels around it, right? Like, I'm also, because I do podcasts and all these things, I'm like, okay, I do a lot of tests. I'm like an Enneagram 3. I'm like, is that what you mean by what is Abbey Brown? But I don't even know how to describe it. I am a motivated person, but I'm motivated with the fact that I like doing things that other people either think they can't or don't think that is possible for them, like running marathons, going to different countries. Like, it doesn't even have to be business related. I just like to know, I jumped out of an airplane. Was it fun? No, I absolutely despised it. It was the worst day of my life. But I did it because I'm like 1% of like the world jumps out of an airplane. And so I'm like, I want to do things that, like, you're on this like world for such a small amount of time that I'm like, I want to try all of the things. And if I fail at them, cool. Like, but if not, I want to at least try to do them. So I feel like that is what motivates me, is just trying hard things.
Yeah. So you are the type of person that can do hard things, and anything that is put in front of you, you're able to overcome it. Take me back to a time where you had to overcome a fear that you didn't know you had.
That's a good one. I would say this public speaking space. I never thought I could get in front of somebody and talk about myself. And even putting myself out there, social media is very hard for me. It is something that, I know.
No way.
Yeah, it is something that is
You're
personal.
So like extrovert.
Yeah. So one thing that I feel like it's not a comparison, but it is like when you're trying to do all of the things, when you see other people. And so something that one of my good friends told me was she is all about create over consume. So create 80% of the time, consume 20% of the time. And so
that's good.
For me, every time I'm working, I'm like, okay, what am I creating? So you may see me post a lot of things, but that's from this challenge of this year is like create 80% of the time. So I will get on and I will post about the business and the things, but I won't go look at anything else, which is bad. Because I'm not as connected. But like for me, it's because it's like it's this muscle that I'm building. So it's like I am going to create.
That's good.
And I think that's where, as an entrepreneur too, it's my biggest advice is create all the time. Like don't consume what other people are doing. Right. Don't try to copy. It's really just create your own vision, and then people will love it or not. But that's why you keep creating things. Like don't just stop, because you don't know what your clients are going to like or what your friends are going to like. Like balloons. Who in the world knew?
Yeah.
Who knew?
And it's in need.
And now, but it was something that somebody asked for, and I was just like, sure, I can create, right? That was my whole goal, and I did it, and now it's what people are asking for. So that is my biggest advice, is create over consume.
That's so good. And honestly, I feel like one thing that I have learned about myself is that when I'm not creating, my energy is low.
Absolutely.
You know, and it's like, it's interesting how like I've realized like that muscle in me, if it's not being operated like 24/7 or just like at least majority of the time, I like my energy's low. I feel dull. I feel like I can't think and operate. And I operate a lot better when I'm in that creation phase. And it's so crazy that you said that, because I'm like, yes, like I understand that completely, because I'm not the type of person to just be like, I don't know, just not doing much of like, I can't do the micromanaging. I can't do the, sit behind the computer all day. And it's like I have to be moving around at the office, like just outgoing. Like I'm a very outgoing person. And so it's so interesting that you said that. But I love that you said even earlier when it comes to like tips to creating a business, never stop learning, always be a student, right? And I feel like that is so key to a lot of things. And so for you as a student, what's something that you've learned that you said, okay, I probably shouldn't have done that? I wouldn't say like a regret. I don't like to say regret. I don't take like I don't have regrets because I feel like things that are mistakes are like lesson learned. And so they're just like lessons. So what's something that you're
Absolutely.
like, okay, I learned from that. I probably shouldn't have done that. And it doesn't have to be in entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
It could be like in anything.
All
What's
day, every
something that
day.
like you've learned, you're like, okay, I probably wouldn't do that again.
Yeah, I think we can go back to that HR. When you have a team, it's hard and in the best way possible, right? In life.
Yeah.
Like, I think we just think about life, right? People are the best part and the flipping hardest part, right?
Yeah.
They are like, it's all just like the same.
Yes.
And so same with team. And so I think one of my hardest parts is I let some people stay on the team that were maybe dragging the energy down, but they've been with us for a while and I love them as a person.
Yeah.
And I try to find common ground and I tried to do the whole kumbaya thing. And so I think I was trying to do that for too long. And
people pleasing?
What?
Was it like people pleasing a little bit?
I would say yes.
Okay.
I would say people pleasing, but also just trying to create harmony in the team when there was definitely right after 7 years, 6 years, there's just a change of interest, right? And a change of life, especially in the event world. Like if your life changed, your kids' ages change, like there just are changes. And so for me, it was allowing those people who had been there for a while to step away and go on their next adventure. And it was hard. And I think I took it super personally. I think that there were things I could have done differently. But to be honest, now the new team that's come on, the culture we're like building together, I think has been so fun. So I think keeping on relationships that maybe have run their course in a good way.
Yeah.
And not letting them go when they probably should have been done earlier.
That's good. Okay, so you just made me like take a turn into a whole nother.
Fabulous.
I'm so excited. Okay, because you just made me challenge my own thought because I said people pleasing because that's something I'm trying to break.
Yeah.
So how do you step into the confidence of a decision that you know is best for you, but it's going to hurt someone else? Because I think I find myself in that space a lot where it's like, okay, this is not serving me in the way that I want it to. And it comes with like building a team. It comes with like creating a business. And there's just a lot of things that you realize, okay, I thought I wanted that, but deep down, I always say like as a female, like we have instincts. Like we know. So it's like there's something that I feel so strongly now where I feel like I've gotten to a space in my life where I can say, I will say now that yes, I like this. No, I don't like that. And it took time. Like it took a lot of like people pleasing and then getting to that space where it's like, Danielle, this is no longer serving you. And you can't move forward until you break this habit of like settling. Because I feel like that's what it was. It was just more so like settling for people, settling for the decisions that suited them, but I still wasn't being served. So it's like, was that hard decision making easy for you, or did it take time?
Oh, it definitely takes time. I think I have become a master goal setter, which I think is something that I am. Even like, again, we're gonna go with like, what is Abbey? But like in the strengths quest, like I am like a futuristic thinker. So like the things that like motivate me are like thinking in the future. And so goals goals are the thing that for me has helped me each year be like, okay, I'm going to say yes to these things. I'm going to say no or delegate these things. Because sometimes it's never a no. It could be a not right now or a not me, right? Like, and so I think that's another thing is that I found a good community where if it's not for me, I at least can point them in the right direction. So I hate, and even like with my team, I'm always like, never say no to the client because it's usually not a hard no. It's usually here's these other 3 options that would better serve you or myself, right? Our team, the event. And so that's kind of the same. The way that I go with it is that I have my strict boundaries, but it's never a no. It's I give them another option.
Yeah, that's good. And then also too, like, I like the whole, maybe it's not for me, maybe it's for someone else. Because I think there's sometimes this fear of not saying yes, of like fear of missing out. Like, okay, if I don't say yes, this is an opportunity that I'm going to miss out on. This is an opportunity that they're going to go to someone else. And I'm like, honey, okay, what is for you is for you. And I'm starting to believe that now more than ever, especially like in entrepreneurship when I've like, and we will talk about this too, but stepping into this space where you're like, you're creating, it's exciting. And then you realize like, okay, people are flattered, obviously, because now they're copying what I'm doing, right? And it's like, oh, that's a thing.
Oh, that's
like, it's a thing. Okay, cool, great.
It is a thing.
Like, great, you know? So I've gotten to a space where I'm just like, okay, let it be that. But going back to okay, if this is like saying no to this
Mhm.
opportunity, I'm going to be okay. And I promise you, because I'm a faith believer, so I promise you, like, whatever God has for me, it's going to be okay.
Yep.
And
Absolutely.
it's just like not for me.
Yep.
So it's like, how do
Absolutely.
you grow to that space of like accepting, not really accepting, but more so like declining opportunities that are not for you and being okay with that?
Yeah.